My name is Houra Merrikh. I'm a professor in the biochemistry department. My research is focused on two different areas. The first area is basic biology of how DNA replication occurs in cells. And in particular, I'm really interested in understanding how replication can occur on this chromosome that is so crowded and full of RNA polymerases, and there's active transcription. The second part of my research is about understanding how drug resistance evolves, and in particular across all different types of pathogens, and how the evolution of drug resistance impacts our clinical problems that we currently have across the globe. For us, we're really interested in the questions that we're asking, and so in terms of methods, we've gone across all different types of methodology, from single molecule microscopy and biophysics to looking at how cells have evolved over time using bioinformatics, and everything in between, from molecular biology to genetics to pretty much whatever we need to answer the main question that we're interested in. The philosophy for me of how to run a lab and how I've been running my lab has to do with trying to create an environment where people feel like they're in a family. And I think that that particular philosophy has really led to a lot of our success. People feeling like they can talk to each other about anything, about their projects, and really nurturing each other. So I started my academic career at community colleges. I was an undergraduate student, eventually transferred my credits to the University of Houston, then moved to Boston and got my PhD from Brandeis University, and then finally completed a postdoc training at MIT. During my postdoc at MIT, I was studying how DNA replication is regulated. And on the side, one of the discoveries that I've made was that transcription can actually hinder replication and slow it down. And so that got me thinking about how cells in general, from bacteria to eukaryotic cells, how do they replicate their DNA when they have these obstacles, in particular transcription, on the way. So this is how I got into this particular area of research. So the second part of my focus in terms of our research has to do with a clinical problem, as I mentioned, which is how do cells evolve resistance to antibiotics? And the way that we got to that question was through basic biology. And our studies on how replication-transcription conflicts lead to mutations, the basic biological studies that we've had in the lab, that we've done in the lab, has really driven the clinical aspects of what we're looking at now. So it's been a key part of our research and has opened up doors. Vanderbilt actually is really interested in basic biology, and I think that's where really the success of research starts. I would say that we've had a lot of success, and there are really different facets of success. The first thing that I would say is the most important to a PI is the success of your mentees. I would highlight my first postdoc who was interested in pursuing an academic career. And he's now actually has been offered and accepted a job at the Curie Institute in France, which is one of the top institutes in the world focused on DNA. Other successes, of course, has to do with science. We have had a lot of success in terms of connecting fields that have been historically separate from each other, such as biophysics and evolution. So we've been able to connect these very distant fields to each other, and I would say that that's a big success and something that I've really wanted to do, and I've been able to accomplish. And the third thing is the environment. I would say that we've been really successful in bringing together a very international group. And, we have people from many different countries, from Russia to Brazil to, of course, myself, I'm Iranian, to Turkey, and even somebody from Luxembourg has been in our lab recently. So I think that international environment has been quite, instrumental in our success. The critical thing, the main thing that I really look for in recruiting people to my lab is motivation. The main thing that really, I think, drives science forward and leads to success is motivation. If you're motivated, you can learn anything. And so that's what I look for. I look for motivation. Don't forget about the big picture of what we're trying to do. Often people get down into the weeds, as they should at the bench, but then they forget why they're doing what they're doing. The second piece of advice that I really stress with my people is that people matter. So don't miss social events. Make connections not only with your lab mates, but other people in the field. I put a lot of emphasis on taking my trainees to conferences so that they can meet the people whose papers they've read. And those connections are really what make science even more enjoyable and really lead to a lot of progress. In the post-COVID era, my advice to students is to stay engaged. There are many different series, lecture series online in our field, and I advise my students to actually continue attending those online. And I also advise them to continue socializing online. You can have a small happy hour here and there with people that are potentially distant, location-wise, or your colleagues in the lab. But stay connected both socially and scientifically, and take advantage of the new ways that have been set up to actually continue engaging your mind. So I really like Vanderbilt. I actually came to Vanderbilt just to give a seminar. So I had a lab for a long time at the University of Washington in Seattle, and as I traveled across different universities, different countries giving talks, I came to Vanderbilt. And what I found here was that there was this really tight-knit community that really I felt like would be a nice place to be. There are multiple groups that work on DNA, and I felt like that would really create a strong environment for my trainees. So that was a big part of it. And the other part is really that there are many different types of research ongoing here, and there was a lot of opportunity for collaborations. And so I felt like this would be the best place to have a lab, and decided to move my lab here to Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt is a place where research can be done in a very successful way. And the reason for that, I think, is that the environment has been built such that it's looking for innovation. Vanderbilt is looking for innovation.